Hey guys, what's up? In this video, we're going to be talking about Figma Sites that was recently introduced in Config 2025. Now, Config introduced so many new features and new tools that it's going to be really hard for us to cover all of that in a single video. Actually, even covering Figma Sites in a single video is going to be hard. So we're going to be covering Figma Sites in this one video, hopefully, and not in extreme depth, but in quite a lot of detail. So this video may be long, but hopefully it's going to give you everything for the most part for you to get started with Figma Sites, start creating awesome projects, and go to the next step. So the things that we will be covering in this video are these four. The first one is that we're going to be understanding the interface. So this is not a video where I just watch the live stream. Like I've seen a bunch of videos where people are just talking about things, and I did that too prior, but now that we have access to it, we're actually going to be experimenting with Figma Sites. So the first thing is we're going to be understanding the interface, where things are, how to create pages, how to go ahead and do responsive stuff and stuff along those lines. The second thing is we're going to be creating a simple design with the pre-built components that Figma Sites offers, and then we're going to be publishing that site to have a look at it. The third thing is we're going to be converting an already existing Figma design to a Figma site. I'm going to be using the untitled UI landing page example that I've been doing in a bunch of my videos for Bolt and for, let's say, Lovable and stuff along those lines, to have a look at that. And the fourth, we're going to be covering interactions. Now, interactions are quite flexible and complex in Figma Sites, so we may not be covering everything there, but we are potentially going to be covering that in a separate video. So definitely do subscribe and do hit the bell icon. Okay, so how do you get started with Figma Sites? Well, the first thing that you need to do in order to get started is, let's say when you're on your recent tab, or when you're, let's say, on a project, you can probably see the Sites button on the top right, and you can just click on that to actually just open a Figma site. Once you've done that, you can actually see Figma Sites here. You have a bunch of templates that you can use to experiment with things. If you want to open them just to see how it looks, you can do that, but we're not going to be doing that here, since first of all, we're going to be understanding the interface. So when you land on Figma Sites, this is the interface that you see in front of you. Obviously, you have the name at the top. So this is going to be Sites Noob to Pro. And we have the sidebar. You can collapse it as well. Very similarly, you have the web pages. So here you can have all of the web pages and link them together. So like home, contact us, about us, blog, and stuff along those lines. Then you have the layers within that particular page, and the layers shows both desktop and mobile, but you can also have components here. So you can build things here and then include them to Figma Sites here. So you can have interactive components here if you want to, and you can go ahead and actually include them directly at the bottom if you want to. So that's that. You can also see that the desktop frame, very similar to, let's say, Webflow or Framer, is the primary one. As you can see, it's written primary here. So it's primary, and what this means is that any change you make on the primary thing actually automatically gets applied to the mobile frame. In order to play around with the responsive views, you can just click on, you can just click on this plus button, and you can design a custom viewport, or you can click on tablet to add the tablet viewport here as well, which are desktop, tablet, and mobile. So as you can see, if I just draw a rectangle here, the rectangle appears in all of these three things. It is not going to be centered because I did not center it, and now it's going to be centered. So this basically gives you an idea of how this works. I can have an about page as well. Let me just go ahead and add a text home here. So I have this home text, which is in the center. I can create a new page. As you can see, we have a new page here, and that particular page is now added right beside in the layers panel as well. So this whole thing is not changing with the pages at the top, which is inconsistent, I think, with Figma, because in Figma, if you have a bunch of, let's say, layers here, and if you switch between pages, the layers at the bottom changes. So I think they should fix that. These should change, but I can imagine how keeping all of them in the same place is also beneficial, but I think it can get really messy for really large sites. But if we, let's say, just go ahead and actually have the about page, we can do that here. And we can now go ahead and actually link both of these things together if we want. And you can do that with the interactions, which we can cover later. So that's the general interface that you need to concern yourselves with. Obviously, I'm going to collapse things. The plus button here allows you to go ahead and choose the pre-made blocks that you can now directly go ahead and include in your designs. You have your navigation, you have your heroes, you have your features, and you have your embeds that you can use here. So they've taken a very similar path to Framer by providing these things, and these things are probably going to expand as we go through. You can have your library surfaced here as well, very similar to Figma. So all of that should be pretty at home for people who are just transitioning from Figma to Figma Sites. You can press Command F to actually search for something. So for example, if I search for home, as you can see, it's going to return everywhere where I have home and about and stuff along those lines. We have the custom coded section, or I think this one is, yeah, chat with AI section, and then the CMS section, which is going to be coming soon. So we don't have that right now, unfortunately. When it comes, I can potentially create a video for that as well. And you have your site settings. The site settings shows you whether your site is published. You have the title as well. You have your description. You have your language. You have your Google Analytics ID. You have your favicon that you can upload, your social sharing image as well, and your start of head. So you can use custom tracking code, like for, let's say, Lucky Orange or any other thing that you want. And you can have, let's say, some other scripts embedded if you actually want to play around with these things. In the future, we're going to have custom code as well in Figma Sites. So this is going to be much more powerful. So that was the general introduction of the interface. The right side of the interface is very similar. You may notice that these things on the right have actually updated, but this is not particular to Figma Sites. Even in the Figma design view, if I, let's say, just go ahead and create a frame, as you can see, these things are updated here as well in Figma in a design file. So these things are updated here as well. Apart from that, you have fill, you have stroke, effect, layout guide, and your exports. So this is pretty standard stuff. Obviously, in the effects, you have some other things that were recently introduced, like texture, noise, and obviously in the layer blur, you have progressive blur. But I'm going to be covering or doing a separate video potentially about these things as well. So we're going to be selecting this desktop frame here, first of all. Now, when I select desktop, it's selecting all three, meaning anything that I add in desktop is going to be applied to all of them. But if I select mobile and I apply a rectangle, this rectangle is going to be added to all of them, but it's only going to be visible. I don't know why there's no fill, so let me just add it. This particular rectangle is only going to be visible on mobile, but very similar to Framer, it's still going to be available as a hidden object or as a hidden layer in the main primary frame. So now that we have all of those things understood, let's just go ahead and create things from scratch. So what do I actually want to include in this first page? Let's go with navigation. So I'm going to add this particular navigation here. That's fine. Let's go ahead and add maybe some hero section. I like this particular section, so let me just include that. So I've included that. That should be there. And maybe I don't want this navigation to take the space at the top, so I'm going to make it sticky, or I can make it fixed. So if I make it fixed, it's going to be fixed at the top, and that's just something that I like. Very similarly, as I can see, or as you can see, this is not appearing fine here, so I'm just going to add some padding here, manual padding, to this particular page to push things down. So I'm going to push these things down slightly. I'm going to reduce this spacing. I can increase the height if you want to. As you can see, there's a fixed height set. And I'm going to do the same thing for mobile as well, where I am just going to increase the padding from the top. Now, as you can see, a really easy way to increase the padding is just pressing shift and dragging left and right. It just allows you to set the padding in an 8 pixel interval. And if the 8 pixel interval, obviously, as many people know, is set by the nudge amount here. So make sure that you've set that. And I'm going to reduce the spacing in between these things as well, and maybe just increase the height slightly. A few things that I would like to talk about the height as well is the height. We have hug contents, we have fill container, and some of the traditional stuff that we have. So that's in there as well, and you can play around with that as well. I also think that the spacing should actually be reduced here as well. So I'm going to reduce that, and that's how it looks. Now let's just go ahead and add some other things as well. So I'm going to go to plus again. Let's go add some sections. So what sections do we want to add? Maybe I want to add these particular sections. So I'm just going to click on them and it's going to be added. These sections visually as well are also very similar to Framer. So I'm not sure, obviously Figma is trying to copy Framer to a certain extent as well. But I mean, as a first try, they're definitely doing something good. So we have a bunch of sections here. Maybe I can remove this section and instead add a bento section. So I'm going to go here again to the feature. I like this bento section, so let's just go ahead and include this one. So as you can see, anything that I add basically gets added to the thing that I've selected, or at the bottom of the frame that I selected. So I'm just going to move this up, and we are going to, and as you can see, these things are automatically working responsively because Framer has designed these components in a particular manner. So once we have that established, let's just go ahead and add some other sections if we want to. I like this pricing section, so let's just click on that and add it. Okay, there's the pricing section, and let's just move it to the bottom. I think I accidentally clicked on an inner element, so the inner element was selected, so this pricing section actually got added. Maybe let me just confirm that. No, the pricing section is actually in the right place, but I'm not sure why it's not moving at the bottom. I have to... Why is this particular thing stuck at the bottom? Okay, some things are messy. If I'm using up and down here, that works. But if I use up and down, okay, now it's working. I'm not sure why it wasn't working before, but never mind, it's working now. So we have the pricing section, and let's see if we want to include any other section. I think that's fine. Maybe we want a footer. So I'm just going to search for the footer. Maybe we have some footer here. So we have this footer. And let's just go ahead and add that in. So I'm going to select desktop and I'm going to click on footer. Hopefully it gets added to the bottom. And there you go. We have a site already built. I can update images. I can update the visuals. And the only thing that's left to actually publish it is just go here and click publish. That's it. So I'm going to click publish and see how the site actually looks, and then we can play around with it. So the site is published. I'm just going to click this to open it. And here we have our site, which looks pretty good. I don't like one thing, how everything is actually expanding based on the screen size. So I want to add a container and I want to fix this header, even though we're going to be fixing a lot of things, but I just wanted to showcase that real quickly. So we have this particular navigation, and as you can see, it's already set to a particular width, which is fine. I'm just going to press Option H. If I press Option H, you can see what's happening here. If I just basically click on this particular element, that's what it means. Option H means that I want to center this horizontally. So once I've done that, I can also just go ahead and click on the play button to have a look at the design here instead of opening it. So as you can see, that's fixed, but all of the content is still expanding. So in order to fix that, obviously fixing that is really easy. I can select all of these elements. Let me just collapse things. I can select all of these elements. Let's say, does the footer actually have a background? No, it does not. So I can select all of these elements, these 4 elements that I have here. I can go here and I can set a maximum width of, let's say, 1280 pixels. Once I've done that, I can just click play to play this particular thing, and let's see what we have here. So now everything is centered within a container of 1280 pixels. Why is this not centered? Let's just verify it. I'm not sure why I'm not sure why I selected the minimum width. So I'm going to select maximum width and say 1280, and that should be working as well. So we're going to play it again, and we have the footer fixed as well, even though the footer should actually be expanding because we have a border. So in order to do that, I'm going to expand it. I'm going to remove the maximum width, and we are going to go ahead and select this width, and we're just going to give that a maximum width of 1152, and this should actually work. So now we have I think maybe I did not remove the minimum width. Yeah, sorry, the maximum width. So I did not. So now we have, what is going on? Is it not removing the minimum width? No, it has removed the minimum width, but it has not made it. It's also a fill container. So just to verify, okay, this is our container. Oh, never mind. The border is actually applied on the container, which is not something we want. So I'm going to remove it from the container here. I'm going to add it here, and this should be working now. So the border is now applied to the whole thing, and we have the container of the footer in the middle, and everything actually is working responsively because that's the way that these things, or Figma has actually designed these components. Now, if we were to just have a look at one example as to how this is happening, how did Figma, even though these are not components, how did Figma do these things to make sure that they're working correctly? So if we go here, this is our navigation. We have our company, we have our buttons here. Where did this particular button go here? So we have our company and we have our buttons, but here, the way that they have designed it, it's automatically hiding this button. Obviously, if let's say I was to just, let's say, cut this particular thing and paste it here, it's also working here. But if I was to design a particular navigation myself, and if I was to, let's say, add things to it, obviously it's not going to work because these things are not going to be programmatically built into the design. So imagine if this is a navigation, I add it here. Let me just make it fixed, add it to the top, add it centered, have it here. Now, as you can see, this is not going to work responsively. So I have to go and manually fix these things because these things are not baked in like they are baked in some of the Figma components. So if you actually want to get started with Figma sites, I would highly recommend using some of their pre-built templates and including things within them to first of all practice and understand the concepts and then go that next level. So now that we have done this, let's just go ahead and convert another new page, a completely new page into this particular design. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this home page. So it's removed. We don't even need this page. So I'm going to remove that as well. We have the untitled UI site here. So now I'm going to go ahead and one by one start doing things. So first of all, we have this particular navigation. This is the header navigation. We have another navigation here. So I'm just going to first of all go and one by one start fixing things. I obviously want to go ahead and have a tablet view and a mobile view to see how everything is working. So let's just go ahead and include that. And by default, I'm just going to go ahead and paste the navigation. So the navigation is pasted. And as you can see, Figma is smart enough to know that this is a mobile breakpoint. So it's going to choose the mobile variant. Another example of that would be, for example, if I was to create a component here, this is a component which is a desktop component. So I'm going to say my component / desktop, and then I'm going to go ahead and create another variant for it. Let's just do it the new way and change this to mobile and write mobile in there. Maybe even make it a bit smaller because on mobile things are a bit smaller, and center these things. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to say this is going to be the breakpoint. So now if I just go and grab this component and paste it here, as you can see, we have the desktop, and mobile. So it automatically selects mobile to be placed on the mobile screen. One other thing that I just want to show you is that if this breakpoint was not named breakpoint, if it was named mobile, and if I said this was off and this was, and this particular one was on. So for example, this is mobile and this is not mobile. If I go here and if I paste this here, as you can see, that does not work. So it works on a strict pattern that you have to follow, if you want to achieve that thing. And Untitled UI by default is already following that pattern. So in order to fix this navigation, the first thing that I need to do is I need to go ahead and make this particular thing a fill container. But if I go here to make this a fill container, as you can see, that does not work because there is no fill container option. Now you're going to ask me, why is there no fill container option here? Well, that is because if we go to this parent, and fill container option, if you've seen my videos or you've taken my course, is only available if the parent is actually an auto layout. Now they have in the layout option or in the auto layout option, we have a bunch of options here. The freeform tool is like basic. It means no auto layout. Then we have this vertical auto layout, we have horizontal auto layout, and then we have the grid stuff. So if we just make this vertical, then it's automatically going to start considering it an auto layout. And let me show you another thing, because I want to show you a bunch of things. Is by default, I've pressed Command Z, so it's not a layout, an auto layout anymore. If I go here, if I go to my navigation, if I add something, by default, if I go now to my desktop frame, it automatically makes the thing an auto layout. So it automatically makes it a vertical auto layout, which is something that we have to do manually if we're creating things. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and make this a fill container. and convert that into mobile again. I think I have to convert it here into mobile. Sorry, I was selecting something else. So now that we have this here, we're going to go one by one and start adding things. So we have this hero section. I'm just going to go here and I am going to paste the hero section here, and it automatically is looking good. So the hero section is here. Obviously it doesn't look good here and it doesn't look good in some of the other places. The first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to I can actually go ahead and detach this hero section, because I just don't like the way that Untitled UI has done it, because I believe it should be an auto layout. So I'm going to detach it and I'm going to make it an auto layout. So now it is an auto layout. I need to go ahead and add some spacing to the top. Let's just maybe make it 128 or maybe slightly less, 100. So that's that. And let's go here. Let's make this a fill container. So as you can see, this is now fine. Let's select this particular thing. So we have the content here, which is the image. I'm not sure if this is an image or not, but we can just rasterize it to simplify things, because this is a component and I don't want to play around with this particular component right now. So I'm going to rasterize this image. So the image is rasterized now. I'm going to go ahead and remove this particular thing. Now I'm going to select this image. We already have this focused, and we're going to say this is now going to be fill container. So now it should start respecting it. Let's just go to our tablet view and see where the image went. So the image magically has disappeared for whatever reason. So as you can see, this is slightly buggy. So I'm just going to remove this and I'm going to add the image again. So I'm going to go to the hero section and just paste this image so I can have it working. For some reason, it wasn't perfectly working, so I had to do this again. And maybe I don't want it too close to the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and make this an auto layout. Or wrap this in an auto layout. So the auto layout is there, it's filling the container. And let's just go ahead and add some spacing to the edges. And maybe here the spacing should be slightly less. So that's our first section. Obviously, we can go here as well and make sure, is there a mobile alternative here? So we have the size. Let's just go ahead and make it medium so it's a bit mobile friendly. And let's reduce the spacing at the top slightly and here as well. So that's our first section. Some of the other sections are going to be very simple because they already have a mobile view. So since the breakpoint is already set here, desktop and mobile, it's automatically, hopefully in theory, going to work. So if I paste it here, as you can see, it has automatically transitioned these things into its respected state. One other thing that I just want to do is I want to now, never mind. Let's just go here, copy, and then paste this element here as well. This is also automatically respecting it on mobile. Let's just place this there as well. That's done. Let's go here, add this particular section as well. This section, I'm not sure if they've created a mobile version for it. Maybe they have. Yeah, they have. So that's amazing. We have the FAQs, the blog, and the footer. Let's just copy all of these three things to save time. And there are some dividers in there as well. So let me just copy the dividers too. Copy, go and select everything and just paste it there, and everything should automatically start working. Now, as you can see, this page is working automatically. The responsive sections are also looking good, and it's just looking terrific. This particular section is not looking good, so I can make it mobile friendly. And this is much, much better. I obviously think that the spacing on the edges can be increased a bit, but you can configure that later on as well if you want to. So this page is done. Let's just go ahead and publish it and see what we actually get on a live website. I think, and this is something that you guys can do later on as well, I think the font sizes should be reduced here. I haven't published. Let me just import the Untitled UI library here as well. So I'm going to go into my libraries here. So insert libraries, going to go here, and let's just search for Untitled. So we have Untitled UI. I think I want this one. So now let's go and select this, and we have a bunch of our font sizes. Let's make it slightly smaller to something like this. So this is looking good. Maybe the buttons should be smaller here as well. So let's select both of them, 2XL to LG. So that's looking much better. Let's reduce the spacing here. Let's reduce the spacing here. And in the meantime, our site would probably be published. So let's just open this website and see how it looks. Now, some of you may be saying like, hey, this looks horrible. What have you actually done here? So let me just press Command 0. Okay, this is what it looks like. Not too bad. We can fix this in a matter of seconds. So this hero section is what is messing things up. We don't want it to expand 1280 pixels. So let's just say 1280 is going to be the max width. So that is done. Let's just go ahead and refresh. One thing that I do want to point out is sometimes it takes a while to actually refresh. So you may have to do a hard refresh and figure things out. So that's fine. And obviously, as I mentioned, we may want the footer to expand full width because there's a border on it, but I've already taught you how to do that. So this website is published. The components here, this is an actual component, interactive component. As you can see, interactive components are also working, which is amazing. Our button hover states are also working. All of that is fine. What is not fine, which I've heard some other users complain about as well, is actually the tags. So this is not a button tags. Actually, if we just check out accessibility, as you can, if we just check out accessibility, I'm going to press tab and nothing on this page is apparently accessible, which is horrible. Imagine nothing on the page being accessible. So this is a horrible first, if you actually consider it a website, competing with Framer, this is horrible. But I'm assuming they're going to be improving this. But in order to fix that, if you want to, you can just manually go ahead and change some things here. But one thing that you can note here is I cannot even change the tag to a button tag, unfortunately. I can change this to a navigation, but I cannot add a button tag. How horrible is that? And a few other things that I would like to point out are, if we just have a look at the right sidebar for the inspection panel, we have this H1, which is not actually an H1. It's just like a text within a div. So completely not accessible. And we have so many divs within each other, which is definitely not reasonable. We have div, 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 div. So a lot of nesting going on, which is unexpected. But this may also be a result of potentially us using containers here. But as you can see, this heading did not have a container. This heading did not have a container, but Figma, when you actually publish this site, is adding a container on top of this text. So definitely not ideal. But now coming to the completion of this video, we've already converted a site based on the components that were provided. We've already converted this site. Now let's just go ahead and talk about some interactions on the right. So I'm not going to go through all of the stuff that's here, apart from obviously the positioning. The positionings are exposed here. You can play around with them. I'm going to be covering grids in a separate video, and all of the other stuff is pretty much very similar, apart from accessibility, which is very limited. So you can add some tags, but you can't really go ahead and do much with it. And you can have area labels to read things out as well. So that's that. Apologies, I added a rectangle to test something out. So that's done. Now let's go and talk about some interactions. So let's talk about, I wouldn't be talking about each interaction, but let's go and just have a look at some of the ones from the top. So linking things, you can just go ahead and actually link it to a separate page. You can link things to a separate component, and all of those things you can do that if you want to. So I can on click, what do I want this navigation to do? If I click on it, I want you to change it to something else, go back, scroll to a particular section and stuff along those lines. Very similarly, if I add a link here, I can add a page or URL. That was a component, so it was behaving differently. But a simple link is going to just behave like this, where I can enter a page, and those pages can be the ones that I already have added on the left. So those are going to be auto-completed. If I do that, there's an underline here, which is definitely not ideal. So you can have a look at that as well. So I'm going to remove the underline manually. Let's just go ahead and remove that by pressing Command U or Control U. Now let's talk about some interaction. So I'm going to select this whole frame. We have an interaction to go back, like a back button. We have an interaction to scroll to, which is something that was already there in Figma. We have conditionals, we have set variable, we have hover effects, we have press effects, reveal, scroll parallax, scroll transform, custom cursor, marquee, and play. So we're just going to be exploring some of them, and I can do a more extensive video on all of these interactions, but a hover effect is really simple. When I hover over this, what do you want to happen? Maybe I want the scale to be 1.2, maybe I want the rotation to be something like this, and that's pretty much it. Let's just see how that particular interaction looks. Actually, let's just go ahead and first establish a bunch of interactions. So that interaction was one. The other interaction I want to add is by default, this should not show and this should fade in or slide up or something. So I'm going to add a reveal. So when this is in view, I want you to slide in from the bottom up like this. It actually shows it. And should it replay? Yes, it should replay. I can also go ahead and customize this even more deeply if I want to, very similar to Framer or Webflow. But this should hopefully be a good start for you guys. Then if I, let's say, go to this particular section, if I am off this section, I want you to maybe move this image slightly up. Okay, so how do we do that? We can say that I want to add a scroll transform. So what happens when another layer is in view? Which layer? This particular features, what is this? What is the name of this particular layer? Let me just have a look at it. So this is this is the social proof section. Okay, let's just go back to this one. So when the social proof section is in view, I want you to do something. By default, the size is going to be this. But then I want you to slightly reduce it to 0.9 and maybe offset it by pushing it slightly to the top, something like this. So that's going to be working as well. Then we have the marquee. So we're going to add another interaction here that this is just going to rotate from right to left and it's going to be a loop. So that's done as well. And we can change the direction to some other nice effects are the typing effects. So we can just select a text here, as you can see. And we have some play effects here on the text like typewriter. So let's just go ahead and make it a typewriter, or we can have a scrambled text as well. Obviously the scrambled text isn't really nice, but let's just see what it does. The typewriting effect, you guys know what it's going to be. So let's just play around with the scramble one. So the scramble is there, and let's just play around with some other ones as well. Maybe this particular mobile should be draggable. They've already covered draggable, so we don't have to. But let's just go and make it mouse parallax. So, okay, that's fine. And we're just playing around with things. Interactions, what other interactions do we want to talk about? Parallax, I think I would do a separate video here. Draggable is very similar. Spin is also very straightforward, I'm imagining. We have the press effect as well, which is just going to be pressing it, increases its size or rotation. And we have the scroll transform, which I've already showed you. So I think this is pretty much done. Maybe on this particular section, I just want to change the cursor. So I want to add a custom cursor. It says no layer to select. So maybe I want to draw a custom cursor here. So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to select a rectangle. Actually, let me just select a shape, something like this. The shape is here. Let's go to our design view. Let's add a border radius to it, something like this, and make it black. Okay, or something. Yeah, let's just make it black. So this is going to be our cursor. And I think on this particular section we wanted that cursor, so we're going to go to custom cursor and we're going to select that frame 2 cursor. So that's the cursor. Obviously I can remove the background and stuff, but you can do, let's just go ahead and remove the background because this is not going to look good. First of all, shrink it completely and remove the background. Okay. Okay, so this animation is working, that's fine. The image is here, and when we go to this section at the bottom, as you can see, this is working weird. Maybe it's just the preview. Okay, when we go to the bottom to this particular section, as you can see, this image is slightly moving upwards and it's scaling down. So that's fine. We have a looping animation here. We have the custom cursor here. So that's good. We have some really horrible text here, which is definitely not ideal. We have this scroll, this mouse effect where our object changes its position based on a person moving their mouse. And we have the pretty much standard website. So that's going to be it. I know this was a pretty long video, but hopefully this gave you an idea of the tool and an in-depth usage and an in-depth understanding of how to use this tool as well. Do subscribe to hit the bell icon. I'm going to be covering more videos on Figma Sites and some of the other products and some of the other updates that Figma has introduced in Config 2025. So I'll be sure to see you there in the next video. Take care. Bye.